Hey everyone, how's the last full day of summer going for you? Tomorrow's the solstice, I don't know if you know. With that fascinating lead in, we're going to talk a little more security. All right, so today I'm going to talk about inside attackers. I'll give a little history on inside attackers, sort of the state we are now with inside attackers. Spoiler alert, it's not a good one. And what we can do about that. So my name is Dustin Collins. I'm on the Conjure team at CyberArk. We have a booth out there if you want to come talk to us. I started as a developer about 10 years ago and kind of got into the security space about 3 or 4 years ago, and it is very interesting. So I think we really need to start by talking about what is an inside attacker. And if you notice, I didn't say who is an inside attacker because we're at a DevOpsDays, and inside attackers can also be machines now. People delegate their authority to these machines, and now you have to defend against carbon and non-carbon. In the news, you can kind of see the reflection of what's going on right now. Inside attackers are your main threat, depending on who you look at. Most people seem to say it's getting worse, but 30 to 50% of cyber attacks in the last, at least in 2016, were from inside attacks. The numbers are fuzzy because, as you'll see, inside attacker is kind of a fuzzy term. That's sort of the problem here. So people usually separate inside attackers into 3 different groups. So there's malicious, we got a corporate spy over here, spooky image. They're stealing data, they want financial gain. Sometimes people just want to create uncertainty. That's pretty hard to defend against. We have negligent, so I put junior DevOps engineer over here not to shame people new to DevOps, but to kind of highlight the absurdity of the situation where we put people without the experience into these roles running this infrastructure, and then they screw up, and now they're negligent. That's not fair. And it's also a very thin line between negligent and accidental. So I ran the wrong Ansible command. I set up this infrastructure wrong. Am I an inside attacker now? Some people say yes, and I don't think that's very helpful. A lot of the challenges for inside attackers, if you've kind of read about this in the news, you'll see that sometimes companies get hacked 6 or 12 months ago, and it just sits dormant until maybe the holiday season comes around and we can really create some havoc. So really understanding your systems helps here. There are a lot of challenges. I'm not going to read every list here. This evolution of trust game by Nicky Case is actually really interesting. It starts, it's not really too technical at the start, but it really goes into who can you trust, who's going to cheat you, who's going to work with you. At this point in the talk, usually you start feeling like that. There's a lot of challenges to inside attackers, but this is not this is a hopeful security talk, right? And so I think really we could start by just not calling everybody inside attackers, like malicious, negligent, accidental. Like putting everybody under that umbrella really isn't helpful because it creates biases that when you go into these investigations really tend to undermine what you're trying to do in the first place. There are a lot of solutions. I'm not going to stand here and tell you the solution to inside attackers because I don't know it, but I know some things from my experience that may not be so obvious from Googling inside attackers. One is that improving the visibility of your security actually has a drastic effect on how resilient your company can be to attacks. Part of that, there's this red-blue team. Has anybody heard of red or blue teams? Okay, a few. Basically, a red team's attacker, a blue team is defenders. This is a practice exercise, and it's not just for the security team. Like, bring your developers in, bring operations, bring marketing. Like, this is a cross-functional pursuit. Use open standards, prefer free software. Not free as in beer. You should have the software. You should be able to have what you want with it. Deploying black box security tools into your infrastructure probably isn't the best idea. A future solution I felt like bringing up was behavior monitoring, but maybe not in a good way because there are tons of privacy concerns with behavior monitoring. So this is basically monitoring your employees and their communications in order to detect anomalies with artificial intelligence. So one thing I hear a lot is that you have to choose productivity over security or the other way. Usually when I hear this, it's because somebody hasn't been working hard enough to like actually pay attention to the developer and operator personas for their security systems. Here are all of my references. This was like kind of a depressing read to get this talk together. But I really think there's hope, and I hear the talks from earlier, and we're talking about really working together on this, and we really need to work together to really tackle the inside attacker problem. That's drunk Orson Welles. If you haven't looked up Orson Welles' wine commercial on YouTube, it's hilarious. He's got like 20 outtakes, and we have stickers on that at the CyberArk booth. Thank you.